everybody. We're gonna start the chicken. I have about 3 pounds of chicken thighs. If you want to do chicken breast, that's fine. I just prefer the chicken thighs. I just love the flavor, so I'm using that. I'm gonna add some vegetables to the broth because I'm gonna use this broth later for a couple of other things and a little bit on this recipe. So I took 3 stalks of celery and a whole carrot and just chopped it all up. We're gonna put a lot of flavor into the broth, and then just a half of an onion that I quartered. We're gonna add some salt, pepper. I'm gonna add some salt. And then of course I'll taste it and see if it needs more. The broth does. But we wanna get a lot of flavor in there. And then I'm gonna get some chicken consomme. I like that a lot. And some freshly ground pepper. We're gonna let this come to a boil. Once it does, we're gonna cook it for 1 hour over medium heat. You don't need to rush it or anything. I actually like to do this the day before, which is what I'm doing now. So if you see me in different shirts, that's why. Because I like to, make things ahead of time so that I can have more time to relax and enjoy my food, instead of rushing all the time. We're going to let this come to a boil. Stir it around just a little bit, and then I'll cover it as soon as it comes to a boil. I'll skim off all the top part if I need to. Then we'll just let it come to a boil. So I'm going to put it on high, and we'll be right back. All right, this is starting to boil. So I'm going to start skimming off the top. I'm going to try to get a very clean broth, even though I strain it. I'm going to turn down the heat just a little bit now. All right, now that this is boiling, I am going to cover it, turn down the heat, and let it cook for an hour. We'll be back to check on it in about 30 minutes, but I'm going to give it the full hour because I want the chicken real tender. Okay, we'll be back. All right, this is ready. The chicken is nice and tender. So you can just spit it with the spoon there. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off, and I'm gonna let it cool for a little while before I strain it, and I will shred the chicken up. Now that our chicken has cooled, I'm gonna pull out just the chicken, place it on a bowl so that it can cool down some more and we can start to shred it. I'm gonna move on to make the tomatillo sauce. I'm gonna make these enchiladas a little bit different than the last ones I made. We're gonna make these nice and cheesy. Pretty sure you will enjoy it if you give it a try. I know I did. Okay, I think that's it. All right, I'm gonna strain the broth and we'll be back. All right, now we're gonna cook the chicken down with some onion and garlic. This is what gives the chicken green enchiladas flavor. So what I'm using is olive oil. I'm gonna let this get hot for just a moment. Okay, I'm gonna throw in the onion. This is a half of a medium onion. Okay, and we're gonna season that. We're gonna start our seasoning. That's some salt. We're gonna use some fresh cracked pepper. And really, you don't even have to shred the chicken ahead of time. If you cook it the way I did for about an hour, it will break up as we put it into the pot. So as you can see, I have it here and it's still in big chunks, but you'll see how it'll break down real easy for you. Okay, we're gonna soften these just a little bit, and we're gonna add our garlic. I like to add lots of garlic because that's quite a bit of chicken, so I'm adding quite a bit. That's like a tablespoon of garlic, and we're just gonna saute that until it gets real aromatic. When you can smell that garlic, we're gonna throw in our chicken. You know we saved our broth. I can smell that garlic already. Okay, now we're gonna throw in our chicken. There's a little broth in there, that's okay. We're gonna add some anyway. So I'm gonna just start breaking this up. You see how easy this breaks up? You don't have to shred it ahead of time. You can just shred it, break it up in here. And what I like to do is I like to use my hamburger meat smasher. And that's what I use to break it up. And that shreds the chicken for me real nice. Should be good. To this, I'm also going to add a little bit of salt. We salt in layers. And of course, we'll taste it to make sure it's okay. More pepper. I want to give that chicken a lot of flavor. You know, I see a lot of people boil their chicken and then they just shred it and roll their enchiladas. And, you know, to me, that's just a little bit of a boring situation there. I like flavor in my chicken. Okay, now that it's nice and broken up, I'm gonna add some of the broth back in. And that's so that our chicken is not dry in our enchiladas. You don't want it swimming in there. You just want a little bit just to moisten everything back up. Okay, everything is mixed in. See how perfectly shredded that is? If there's some big chunks, just break them up. No big deal. Okay, let me get some broth. Add a little bit of broth. Mix it up. That should be enough. And I'm gonna check because I put a little bit more chicken than I normally do. I wanted to have some extra for another dish. I always try to cook with 2 meals in mind, meaning I'm gonna cook one protein and try to come up with 2 different dishes so I can have one ready. I'm gonna add just a little bit more chicken broth to that. Okay, that should be good. By the time that the onions finish cooking in here, the broth will pretty much be evaporated and we're done with the chicken part. We can put this in a container, cover it up if you're going to use it within the next couple of days. You don't even have to freeze it. And I am going to use it in the next couple of days. It'll be ready. You save some time after work. You're not rushing. You see how nice and broth evaporates, but yet the chicken is not all dry. You see? Now I'm going to give this a little taste. That's perfect. And we're done with this. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the tomatillos. We can even get the sauce ready. Wow, we're eliminating a lot of steps. Come, dinner time that night, you have everything ready for the family. Look at that, see? Not a whole bunch of liquid. All right, guys, I'm gonna turn this off. I used the same pot. I just gave it a rinse. It just doesn't matter. We're gonna wash it at the end anyway. I put the tomatillos. This is about 1.5 pounds of tomatillos. I am going to add some chile serrano. Now, if you don't want that, that's optional. I like this sauce a little on the spicy side. Personal preference. I started playing around with this recipe a while back, and man, I really enjoy it now, like that. Now I'm gonna add some water. You don't need too much water. Just to barely cover the tomatoes, probably about 4 cups. And I am gonna add 1/4 of an onion that I just cut that in half, okay? We're gonna add some salt. And we're gonna let this start to boil. As soon as the tomatoes change colors, which it doesn't take it too long because these tomatoes are just very soft on the inside. As soon as they change colors, you need to turn it off and strain it right away. Okay, so I'll be back and show you at that point what that looks like. Okay, I wanted to bring you back to show you what I meant about the tomatoes changing colors. You see this tomato right here, that bright green? And then if you flip it over, you see how that navy green color is? That's when you know that these tomatoes are just about done. As soon as the second side turns colors, I'm going to turn it off because I don't want the tomatoes to fall apart on me. So this is probably going to be about 5 little minutes and that's it. Alrighty, the tomatoes are ready. They have all turned colors and softened up. I am going to turn them off and let them cool down just a bit before we puree them in the blender. We're going to let them cool and I'll be back in a few minutes. I put my tomatoes, my serrano peppers, and the onion pieces that were in there in the blender. And we're gonna puree this. I added 1/4 cup of the water that I cooked the tomatoes in, okay? Just so that it won't be so thick. I might add a little bit more, we don't know yet. We'll see. So I'm gonna puree it till it's very, very smooth. Okay, that's done. Now, I'm just gonna check for the thickness and it looks pretty good. I'm gonna add the cilantro now. I add cilantro in here just to give it some more flavor. I add about this much cilantro, stems and all, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna push it all in there. I'm gonna add about 1 teaspoon of salt. And then we will taste later before adding more. Because you can always add, but you can't take out. All right, this is done. Oops, I left a piece in there. All right, there we go. It seems like it's okay for water. We're gonna leave it like that. I'm gonna taste it right now. It's a little hot, but I'm gonna taste it. I wanna make sure we're okay on salt. I forgot one major step, guys, that I always do, and that is to add a little bit of sugar. We're gonna add about 1 teaspoon of sugar in there, And the reason is these tomatoes can get very bitter. I always like to add a little bit of sugar to contrast that bitterness. Okay, that should be good. I'm gonna put you back on the stove so we can continue the process. Here again with the same stock pot. I'm not trying to break a record washing dishes, guys, so I always try to reuse what I can. All I did was throw out the water, wipe it with the paper towel, ready to go. Nothing wrong with it. We are going to add some olive oil. And we're gonna fry up this sauce. We're gonna put about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. We're gonna let that get hot before we add in our salsa. And the last ingredient that's gonna make it cheesy, delicious, and creamy will be the cream cheese. Okay, we're just waiting for this to get hot. All right, our skillet is hot. Carefully add the sauce. I added just a little bit of water to get all that tomato out of there. We're gonna move it around just a little bit. This sauce is so good, guys. I guarantee if you give it a try, you're gonna love it. I mean, it's just the basic sauce with the addition of the cream cheese. But let me tell you, that just elevates this dish. Sometimes I just found that this sauce was just a little bit boring and it just needed a little bit more than the, you know, most people put sour cream on top of their enchiladas, but I wanted a little bit more to that. All right, I'm gonna change over to a whisk to make sure that this is all nice and incorporated with that hot oil so that it can fry up. It just changes the texture, changes the flavor of the sauce, because you don't have to do this step if you're making just green enchiladas the normal way. Like I said, I've been playing around with the recipe and man, this makes a big difference. Okay, it's already starting to come to a bubble. I am going to add the cream cheese. And I've had my cream cheese in the freezer, that's why it's crumbly like that, but we're gonna have the same result. Turn the heat down just a little bit. So melt that cheese. Look at that. It already looks real nice and creamy. And this too, guys, no problem making it ahead of time. Just make sure you cool it down completely before putting it in the refrigerator. Cover it up real nice. If you're gonna use it in a couple of days, that's fine. If not, I wouldn't recommend it. Okay, see how easily that incorporated? Yum-o. All right, we're gonna give it a taste. Let me get a clean spoon. Let's give this a taste. Delicious. It does need a little bit of salt. And I'm gonna add the pepper. I'm gonna turn the heat way low because we don't need it that hot anymore. Put in some pepper. And that should do it. Then we have all our components ready for dinner that night. And you're not rushing and hurrying and messing things up. Let me grab a clean spoon so we can give this a taste. Perfect. Perfection. And we'll be back for the next step. Okay, y'all, we're gonna warm up the tortillas to start rolling the enchiladas. What I do is I put a little oil on a skillet. This is how I like to do mine. You can just pop them in the microwave and soften them up if you prefer, no oil. I personally love the way they taste this way. So I like to warm them up completely through. And then I'm just gonna set them to the side here on a piece of foil. Move on to the next one. A little bit of oil. I'm gonna do a dozen. I already have some rice over here in a big old pot. I have my casserole dish here. Oops. And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour some of the sauce that we made down on the casserole dish. That's just for more extra creaminess all the way around. Okay, now I'm going to start rolling my enchiladas. And here I have the chicken that we cooked with already a lot of flavor. Now the filling size, portion size, that is totally up to you how fat you want to make them or how skinny you want to make them. I like to make them just pretty normal. and we start lining them up. I might add some more tortillas to fill up this casserole dish. I don't remember how many I normally put in this dish, but we're gonna figure it out. Exactly a dozen fit into this casserole dish. And we're gonna now put the top layer on. Here we go. This looks so creamy. It's gonna be so yummy. Just totally cover the enchiladas. Okay, and that's it. And normally I reserve some of this to put on the plate in case after baking them they may look a little dry. I like to doctor them up a little bit with topping them off with some more sauce. So we're gonna save that. Now we're gonna put the cheese. I'm gonna top them with mozzarella, finely shredded. And we're gonna put a whole bunch of cheese on here. Colby Jack works good. Really put whatever you like, but it seems to me that the mozzarella works the best. I tried a whole bunch, and this one works the best. Okay, I didn't quite put the whole bag, but I probably put about 4 ounces of cheese. Okay, now one more thing before we put them in the oven. We're gonna dollop the top with sour cream. And I just try to go across the enchiladas this way so that every single one of them gets a little bit of sour cream. And when it melts into the cheese, oh goodness, it's so yummy. Those 2 we have over here. Okay, and that's it. We're gonna pop them into a 375-degree oven for about 20 minutes or so, maybe 25 minutes. Keep an eye on it. Everybody's oven is different, and we will be back after they're done. This is what they're gonna look like for now. All right, everybody, the enchiladas are ready. Look at that. You can even still see them bubbling. I did turn on the broiler for the last like 10 minutes just to give it a little bit of color. Let's go ahead and plate this up. This smells so good. All right, let's go ahead and plate this up. Look at all that cheese. Whoa. Yum, yum. Look at that. I did make some rice to go along with this. Let me put some of that on the plate. All right, guys, look at that. Delicious. And see how it wasn't that difficult to make, and it's so nice and creamy and cheesy. Let's go ahead and give this a taste. It's pretty hot. Let me move this over. All right, let's give it a taste. Oh, they're so creamy. I can tell already. Look at that. Look at all that cheese. Boy, that tomatillo just comes through every time. I love green enchiladas, and I'm glad I decided to doctor up the sauce with some cream cheese. It really goes well together. This is so good, guys. God, I wish you could taste this. Okay, guys, that's gonna conclude the video today. I hope you enjoyed it. These are really good enchiladas. I hope you give them a try. If you do and you like them, come back and let everybody know in the comments what you thought. Don't forget, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and share with family and friends. All right, I'll see you on the next one. Bye. These are good. I'm gonna keep eating.